I'm JB. This is the Back It Up Binge podcast, and I'm talking with NFL great Mark Clayton. Mark, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you joining. Want to start out, first question. There's a legend about you that I read in the Dolphins Media Guide, and I've never seen anybody ask you this question, so I want to ask it first. When you were in college at Louisville, the legend has it that you hurdled a ping pong table lengthwise. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did that come about? I mean, were you worried about getting, not making it? I mean, you're playing football in college and you're hurdling ping pong tables.
Yeah. As much as I would hate to admit that stupid thing that I did, but lucky for me, I accomplished it. But had I not been drinking that night, I don't know how many beers I had that night, and I felt like, I could do anything. And me being like, what was I, about 18, 19 years old, a little young, yeah, I thought I was invincible though. So I say, I got talked into it. I had a whole bunch of people in the rec room, and people were wagering on both sides. I was like, man, I gotta do this right here, because I'm gonna collect some of this winning right here if I pull it off. But lucky for me, I did that, and without any injuries, and I would have never even disclosed that story if it wasn't for, and I never was to one to disclose that to the Dolphins. Now that you bring it up, the person that brought that up to the Dolphins was maybe a couple years later, after I had got down there. The Dolphins had drafted Dean May, the quarterback, that played with me in Louisville, right?
Okay.
And he's the one that told them that story right there.
That's interesting. Was there a lot of talk after? Like, were you talking in their faces when you did that? There had to be a lot of trash talking, right?
Was I? Because they kept saying, you can't do that. I kept saying, I can do that. I know I can do that. Well, we'll put your money where your mouth is, right there. Let's see you do it right there. We don't think you can. So I was like, yeah. I said, okay, I'll take a little couple dinners on that too.
Nice.
Not from the training table either. Let's go to I forget the name of that wings place that was there on Broadway in Louisville, right there. I wanted some wings to watch the games when we were watching them in the rec room.
That's such a great story. I'm glad I got a chance to ask you that. So let's go back to the beginning. You grow up in Indianapolis, all state in football. You played basketball. You ran track, but you grew up in the center, the hotbed of basketball. How was your hoop game?
Oh, hoop game was pretty good. I thought I was going to be a basketball player. That was my first love, but I love the game of football as well, but not as much as basketball, because, like I said, I could jump pretty high back then too. That carried on to help me in my football game. But I love basketball, and when I got down to Miami, we had an off-season basketball team, and we
Okay.
used to go travel and play. And some of those guys was, they were kind of amazed how high I could jump, because I was out there doing all kind of dunks, and they was wanting to throw it off the backboard and me go up and get it and stuff. So
Nice.
that's pretty cool. I love basketball.
Were you a
I,
Pacers fan growing up?
Yeah, I was a Pacer fan, because that was the only team in the city of Indianapolis, and my dad we used to walk to the Coliseum,
Hmm.
because we lived about maybe it was like maybe a 15-20 minute walk to the Coliseum, and watch the ABA, the Kentucky Colonels, the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Stars. Man, I used to love watching those ABA games.
Artis Gilmore on the Kentucky Colonels, right?
Right, that's
And
right.
and back when you were in college, you had two phenomenal players on the Pacers. You had Alex English and George McGinnis. Great.
Oh, oh yeah, Indianapolis finest, George McGinnis, Washington High School.
Oh, I didn't know he was from there.
Yes, sir, Washington High School.
Hall of Famer. He was awesome. He was
He
awesome.
was, he was.
So you wind up going to Louisville. You play football there. You wind up having few NFL players that are your teammates in college. Otis Wilson, Frank Minifield, future Dolphin, Ron Davenport. Your senior season, you have a phenomenal season. 53 catches, 1,100 yards, 6 TDs. You're averaging 21 yards a catch. So you were ranked 13th in the nation. So explain to me how you get drafted in the 8th round with those stats. Like, how did? In fact, you were the draft class of '83. So Dan was the first player drafted for the Dolphins.
Correct.
You were in the 8th round. Like, how do you drop with those stats down to the 8th round?
Your guess is as good as mine, Jeff. And also they could throw in there also in that my senior year there were only 3 Division I players with 1,000 plus receiving yards. Henry Ellert was first, number 1. He had 1,500 and some yards. And there was a kid from UNLV. He had just a little over 1,000 because I was second in my total yards in the nation. I was second in the nation in total yards right there also. Receiving yards, but I don't know how I slipped to the 8th round. When the scouts came to work me and Frank Minifield out, and Joe Jacoby was there as well.
Oh, okay.
When the scouts came to look at us, a lot of those guys were telling me that they had me, as maybe at least going by the 4th round. I thought I would go in the 4th round or before, the second or third, well, not second round, third or 4th round, somewhere 5th round, somewhere in that. But I had a 3 through 5th round grade, but I don't know. I just slipped to the 8th round. I don't know how. Maybe it was because they had 2 scouting combines back. One of them was in Detroit, and the other combine was in Tampa. And just like me getting looked over in my senior year, I didn't get to play in any postseason bowl games. The Blue-Gray game, the East-West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, the Hula Bowl were all for seniors. I didn't get a chance to play in any of those games, which I felt like I could have raised my stock as well. So I got invited just to the one combine, the one in Tampa. And I didn't run too fast of a 40 time there. They told me I ran a 4.6, which I figured I was faster than a 4.6. But that's what I ran there. But in the long and the short shuttles, I had 2 of the fastest times at the combine.
Okay.
So, but I guess that wasn't good enough to get me drafted before the 8th round. But it worked out.
Well, yeah, absolutely did. And we'll talk about something that still hasn't worked out. Another thing I don't understand about your career, 28 wide receivers were taken ahead of you, though, in that draft, which blows my mind. So then when I talk to guys that got drafted, you were obviously looking at a 3 to 5th round, but you dropped to the 8th. What was that call like when you got, hey, you're drafted? I mean, were you mad? You can't be happy.
I really didn't give it much thought. I just thought about that I'm going to get an opportunity. I really don't care. I'm going to get a chance. That's really that's all I was looking for. I never really even thought about the NFL until my going into my senior year when a coach, Richard Mann, who just retired maybe about 5-6 years ago, something like that, and Super Bowl champion Coach Mann with the Tampa Bay Bucks that year that I was telling you about with John Gruden.
Okay.
He was leaving to go coach the Baltimore Colts then with Frank Cush's staff, right? So our exit meeting, he kind of planted the seed. He said, "Son, if you just work your behind off and you keep your mouth closed, you can play on the next level." And I believed him because he came from Arizona State and John Jefferson was in the pros, right? So when he planted that seed, I was like, this guy might know what he's talking about, right? So then that's when I really started thinking about the NFL. But as far as draft day, when the call came, I had just got back to the house, to my apartment, and I was getting ready to go to a club, really. and because I was at the park, I was at Shawnee Park in Louisville, and people were asking me, "Hey, did you get drafted?" And I was just really just blowing smoke up there behind because I was like, "Yeah." They say, "Where'd you go?" I said, "I went to Tampa Bay." I didn't have a clue where I was going to go because I didn't know. But when I got, long story short, but when I got home and I just got out of the shower, my phone rang, and it was the Dolphins scout, Albert Dubinion.
Okay.
They called him Doobie. He said, "Hey, Mark," because he came to work me out a couple times, and he was just like other scouts was telling me, "Yeah, we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you." I said, "Okay." So he gets on the phone. I answer the phone. He says, "Hey, Mark, Albert Dubinion, I told you we were gonna get you right here. Got you in the 8th round. Hold on, I got somebody that wants to talk to you." And then he puts Coach Shula on the phone.
Nice.
So I was like, wow, and let it be known that I grew up in Indianapolis. I was a Dolphin fan.
Really?
Yes, I was a Dolphin fan growing up in Indianapolis. So to hear Coach Shula's voice on the phone kind of just blew me away right there. For a minute, I was like, damn, this is Don Shula right here.
The
So
Colts were still in Baltimore though when you were growing up, right?
they was.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't have a team then.
Did not have a team.
Okay.
But my second year in Miami, they bolted to Indianapolis. I said,
That's right.
uh-oh, they were in the AFC East then. I said, I get a free trip home every year. Go look at that.
There you go. Good
So,
call. Good
so,
call.
so Coach Mann had planted that seed, and I busted my behind. And then I had another good coach. He's the one that kind of really kind of like laid the foundation to me really being the receiver that I turned out to be, because when he got there, he started teaching us releases from bump and run. They wasn't running no bump and run in college back then. They were
Right.
playing straight zone. And so, for him to come in and know that, this possibly could be happen maybe in a game that if we hadn't seen it before, we'd be ready for it anyway. So, like I said, he was, really laying the groundwork for fundamentally for me as to what it really takes to be a wide receiver. Because as you can see by my stats, we didn't throw the ball too much. I didn't catch too many passes prior to that last year. But every year I seem to catch more than I caught the year before.
You did actually. You went, I won't talk freshman year, 4 years. You went 15, 27, 53 in receptions, but your junior year, senior year, 21 yards a catch, 22 yards a catch your junior year. See, I
Yeah,
always look
yeah.
at a receiver and I look at yards per catch because to me, you get a guy like Warfield, right? That guy averaged 20 yards a catch for his career. So every time you drop back, you're either getting 0 or 40,
Yeah, and
right?
and, and oh my God, Jeff! Like I said, I grew up a Dolphin fan in Indianapolis, and when finally I got it, my opportunity, when you just spoke of, I think the greatest receiver in Dolphin history is Paul Warfield. That's who I grew up idolizing, and when I got a chance to meet him, and I was like, "Mr. Warfield, it's an honor to meet you. You don't know how much I idolized your game, what kind of an impact you made on me being a receiver than I am." Because when I lined up in the street on 32nd and Broadway in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we were playing football in the middle of the street, I was playing wide receiver and I was saying, "I'm Paul Warfield."
42. There you go. You said he's the greatest Dolphin, and I got to tell you, and I'm going to take a lot of heat for maybe people watching this. I personally think he's the GOAT. That's just me. I know there's one other guy that everyone goes to, but when you have over 8,000 yards, less than 500 catches, and you're averaging 20 yards, he's the leading receiver in the Hall of Fame, yards per catch out of everybody.
And it's never gonna. I don't think that's gonna be broken.
No, you look at his stats. I know they didn't throw it a lot. Could you imagine if they did
Right.
to him? I mean, you got Greasy audibling out to runs throwing 9 times in a game in the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and this guy, he 20 yards a catch every time. So
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy. I think he's the greatest of all time, but you know, I don't want to see any comments that I'm crazy, right?
Right, right. You know you'll get them.
Yeah.
Saying
So 83, you go, you're drafted 83. You only had 6 catches, no starts. You were on the special teams. You were a punt returner, 1 TD. What was it like sitting there? Were you chomping at the bit to say I should be playing, or was that a learning year for you?
no, watch this right here. When I hit you with this fact right here. Actually, I got on the field and was playing offensive plays before Dan Marino hit the field.
Hmm.
I was coming in on third down. I was on the field before Mark Duper hit the field to
Okay.
play.
Okay.
Because here's how that went. After I made the team, opening day in Buffalo, Jimmy Cephalo goes down with a torn ACL, right? So I'm coming in on third down now with David Woodley at the quarterback. Dan wasn't playing yet. But I'm running down on all the special teams, though, still, even though I'm coming in on third down. And in that same game, Tommy Vigorito tore his ACL as well.
Okay.
So I got the punts. I'm running down on punt coverage. I'm running down on kickoff coverage. I'm coming in on third down. So I'm like, wow. But that special teams, other than the punt, was short lived because after they seen how I was going around Big Cornelius Bennett, or no, it was Big Daryl Talley running around. He never had to block me on the kickoff because they expected me to take him on, and I was like a $175 soaking wet with rocks in my pocket, and he's about 230, 235 somewhere in there. And I just used to go around the block. He never had to block me. The play came right up inside me. I took myself out of the play, so they took me off of that right there. So, but I still and took me off as being a flyer on the punt coverage team as well because they figured, he's returning punts, he's coming in on the offense. That's when I really had to get into that playbook to really know the offensive position that I was playing, and not just that one right there. I had to learn everybody's position at the wide receiver because if we would ever run a 2-minute drill, I would have to stay on the side that I'm on because I couldn't keep running back to the other side and take up time just going to the position that I was playing. So I had to know everybody's position out there.
I look back at some of the highlights on YouTube of your career, and the one thing I noticed about your style, like Duper was the track star. He'd run it, he'd catch it, he'd blaze. And then when contact came around, he tended to curl a little bit and avoid it, right? Your style was the same way. You talked about some speed and 4.6, but you had the speed. There's plenty of bombs to you for TDs. But what I noticed about you when you would catch it, your yards after catch, you were a very controlled chaos wide receiver. There are many times where you got that ball, especially when you smelled the end zone, where you just ran through people. I'm not talking one guy. I'm talking guys that were bigger than you, multiple defenders. That's what I noticed about your style. I forgot about that.
Well, Duper and I had different games. Duper was a track guy playing football. I've been a football player since I was 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
So, there's a difference because you could see if you're a football fan and you notice back then when they'd have track guys come in and try to play football, they really wouldn't last because, right. There's very few guys, track people that come in and can play the game of football. But like I said, I just felt like I had the quickness that I could shake anybody out there. If Dan didn't hang me out to dry, I like my chance. And as you said, earlier on I got down to the 1 or 2 yard line, and then we would get taken off the field. I said, nope. I'm not going to allow that to happen and someone else to take my touchdown from me anymore. I'm going to try to get it in at all costs, anywhere, anytime I can. I'm trying.
You look back at some of those highlights. I mean, I was watching them, and there was this one play. I think it was against the Patriots. You were on like the 5. There were 3 guys that tried to take you out, and you wouldn't go down. It was unbelievable to watch. And then I remembered back then the narrative on you and Duper were your size, right? You guys were the 5'9", the smaller receivers. And I'm like, this guy's 5'9". He's a smaller receiver. That was the whole narrative in 84, 83, 84. And then that quickly went away because you guys were that good, right? But you guys were still running people over, and he was running around people. So it was pretty interesting to watch. But 84 rolls around and everything just clicks. You had 73 catches, 13, almost 1,400 yards, 18 TDs. How did it all just fall into place for you guys?
In 15 games, those numbers in 15 games. I didn't play 16.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
15 games. It rolled around for us because after my rookie season, like I told you earlier, that we used to go play them basketball games all throughout the state of Florida, Tampa, St. Pete, Jacksonville, all over Florida. So Nat Moore says, hey, you playing in this game this weekend or whatever? I said, yeah. He said, I want you to ride with me. I said, okay, I'll ride with you up there. So we were in the car, and Nat says, let me tell you about what's about to happen right here. I said, okay, Coach Moore, because he had been helping Duper and I, because even though I didn't start my rookie season, and eventually Duper and Dan came in, and they started starting Dan's rookie season, Duper's second year. Duper didn't play at all, one down his rookie season. So Nat says, here's what's about to happen. You and Duper are going to be the starters. He says, I don't have to be a starter. I've been a starter before. He said, here's what my job is going to be. My job is going to be to teach you guys everything that I know and anything that I know that will help you guys, right? He said, and I don't mind doing that. He said, because when I, teach you guys everything I know, and he said, I can come in on third down, play 15, 20 plays a game. He said, body's still good. He said, and I'll be good with that. So my job is going to be to teach you guys everything I know. And just be you guys backup if, something happens to either one of you guys. He says, because Coach Shula feels like it's you guys' time. And he feels like that we'll be better off with both of you guys in the lineup. So, and that's one thing, the way it clicked. But me and Dan came in the league the year before, same year. So we started out on the depth chart at the same place. So he was throwing to me for a long time, our rookie season. So, so we kind of, and I stayed over afterwards after practice. We just worked together. That's how I feel like that everything clicked for us starting that second year because, we worked at it.
No, absolutely. In 84, you're heading into the final game. You got 15 TDs. You got a record that's sitting there for 23 years that you can break. You needed 2 TDs to tie, 3 to get ahead. You get an early touchdown. Then late in the game, you're one away from tying it. Late in the game, 39-yard TD, you tie it. Now you're tied. But then with about 50 seconds left, you rip off a 63-yarder to take the record, and now you get the NFL record, 18 TDs in a season. Did you know and target that record going into that game, or it was just another game to you?
I had no clue. I just wanted to beat the Cowboys. I hated the Cowboys. I still hate the Cowboys. I just wanted to have a good game on them because they were America's team. And so, but no, I didn't even have a clue. I didn't know that I was really even close to a record until I tied the record. And when they came over to PA and he said I had just tied the record, I said, really? And then if you can recall that game, I was never supposed to break their record because had Don McNeil intercepted that pass right there on the sideline that Tony Hill caught right there and took down and tied the game up, because it went right through Don McNeil's hands. He should have intercepted that ball right there. He had it in his hand, but it worked out just fine for me. So I didn't complain. I'm glad he dropped it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you got escorted in by Duper, and I believe it was Nat Moore behind you as well. So And I just we talked a little bit before we got on about the Super Bowl, but when you look back now, because it's the Super Bowl, I have to ask you that. You had a great postseason run. You had 15 catches, 262 yards, 17 and a half average. Looking back now, as a Dolphins fan, it still kills me that that's the last time we were there. When you look back at that now, what are your thoughts about that game?
Wow. Well, I look back and I just felt like that we got beat by a better team.
I don't believe that.
You know that I'd like to say something other than that we blew that game, we did this, we did that, but
All
that's
right.
that it was not meant to be that day. You know, I think they were a better team.
Okay.
And they won.
That pains me to hear that from one of my favorite Dolphins.
And it pains me to say that too, because I just felt like, man, my second year, I'm playing in the damn Super Bowl, man. After all these years of watching it in my lifetime, watching it on TV, I am in the game.
Well, so that brings up a really good point, Mark. So you're in it in your second year, and you got Marino at quarterback. You got Duper on the other side. We got you on this side, and yet we never get back. I mean, it just never made sense to me.
Next year, we were in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, to the Patriots, right? Craig James.
And look, and I just felt like it was an omen from the opening kickoff when Joe Carter fumbles the opening kickoff, and they recovered. And it was all downhill after that. They ran the damn ball down our throats.
They did. Couldn't stop Craig James. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in 92, let's fast forward to 92. Team goes 11-5. You lose in the AFC Championship to the Bills. You blink, you're heading into 93, and all of a sudden you and Duper are not on the team anymore. Mm-hmm. Surprised me. What happened there? Did you expect that, or was it a surprise?
Well, you know, in the NFL, to be surprised by anything that happens, then you shouldn't be playing that game, because you should realize it's a business.
Okay.
And a lot of people, really get caught up into, what's being written and said, and it was talk around in the media that I had lost a step and Duper had lost a step. But the year before, I went to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the year before, you had a 1,000-yard season with 12 TDs.
I went to the Pro Bowl. So, but then they start printing, that in the press that I lost a step, and it just seems like to me that the offense had changed, and they was not really throwing me balls because my contract was up, and I don't feel like that they wanted to pay me what my worth was.
Okay.
So I believe that they kind of just phased me out of the offense, and my numbers, reflect that, and then they get mad at, after games when, I say things, that I really probably shouldn't be saying after the game, but they catch you in the heat of the moment. There's no cool off period where they come in and they the reporters bombard you and start firing questions at you left and right. But it's changed now. It's changed. They give you they give the players time, and then they go to a room and they talk to the press, as opposed to back then the press just was all over the locker room. They open up the door and they let them in like vultures. They come in, and one game in particular, then I knew that I probably, was not going to play down there anymore. After, we played San Francisco, and I caught one pass, and I was kind of like really venting and upset that, even though we may not have won the game, was going to win the game, but I didn't really feel like that I wasn't given a chance to help the team win. So, After the game, they asked me what's wrong, and then I said something that I should not have said, and I knew that probably then that I was gonna a few games from playing my last game down there. But I was all right with that because just like they say in life, all good things must come to an end.
Well, you wind up being in 93, one of those, memes online where you have a player like he looks at a place here because you're not in a Dolphins uniform, you're in a Packers uniform. So you go from Miami to Green Bay. What was that like climate wise change for you?
Well, really, I kind of really ducked the climate. It really wasn't really bad. We
Okay.
dodged a bullet. Pretty much. It was a little cold a couple games, but not like it can be down there. It not like it would have been had we week 16 there. We are playing Detroit in the Pontiac Silverdome, right? We're playing them there, and it comes down to whoever wins that game is going to win the division.
Okay.
Whoever loses that game is going to come back or going to go to whoever wins the game, right? So, I was talking to a few of the guys, Brent Perriman, and a few of the guys, Lomas Brown, and I was telling them, listen here, man, y'all can win today. Y'all can win today. And we're going to come back here next week when we're on the inside right here because it's about to be 5-10 below zero in Green Bay. And I don't want no parts of that. So they did win that regular season game. We went back the next week and we beat them, just like I said. And then we went and played Dallas in Texas Stadium. My last game as a professional, and my very first game as a professional in that stadium. My first preseason game, and the last game with the Packers, a playoff game
against your second favorite team, right?
Yeah. And look, and lost on both.
That's not good.
But look, I can say this though that well, I ain't gonna count that preseason game because that doesn't count against your record right there. But I think every time we played the Cowboys as a Dolphin, I beat them.
There you go. Well, in Green Bay, you have another gunslinger in Brett Favre. That was your quarterback. What was he like compared to Dan as far as receiving a ball from him versus Dan?
Well, it's just like, just riding a bike. You ride one, you ride them all. They're both, quarterbacks, and I'm not going to compare Brett to Dan because Brett was young and dumb at that time, and even though Dan played when he was young and dumb, but he was ready to play because he had a hell of a mentor like Duper and I had Nat Moore. He had Don Shula.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That made all the difference in the world why Dan came out of the gate like he did.
Yeah.
Because Don Shula helped prepare him to be the quarterback that he became early on.
It's amazing how Shula knew to have a great backup quarterback, Morrill. And he has Strock. I mean, Strock would Strock, and he would go in there and he would, 41-38 game. He had a good career, but you always remember him on the sidelines, like right next to Shula. He had the baseball cap on, the Dolphins cap on. He was basically calling the plays.
He did, not basically. He was calling the plays.
Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable.
I was upset when we didn't retain him because people asked me when Dan got hurt early on in our career, he missed a few games, and Strock came in. Strock would tell us, Duper and I, he says, I can't throw the ball 50, 60 yards down the field like Ice can. He said, but I can throw it 15, 20 yards and let you all take it the rest. And our offense didn't miss a beat when he came in. Did not miss a beat.
You never worried as a fan seeing him come in like other second stringers come in on other teams. You're always confident when he came in. Your coach there was Holmgren. What was he like as a coach versus what you were used to with Shula?
He was a good coach. He was a very good coach. Yeah, a very fair coach. You know, I think he knew his stuff. You know, that's why he won the Super Bowl, and um, he kind of told me on our exit meeting that they were going to win it soon. That because I told him I was going to hang it up, and so he said, "Well, you know, you might need to reconsider that. We're going to win this thing soon." And I told him, "No, he's not." Then he asked me why. I said, "Because Brett is not ready." I told him Brett, he's a young guy, and I don't think you're going to win it soon with a quarterback like that. You got to have a quarterback that's a student of the game if he's going to run this successful West Coast offense. But he was right, and I was wrong. And I say that kind of really because I allowed Brett to take the joy out of the game for me because he was busting my butt in practice, and in game I would be out there. I started all the games and busting my behind out there, and he didn't throw me balls when I was the primary receiver and stuff. So he would always kind of like drop back and then maybe take off running, and then when he take off running, he'd only look for Sterling Sharpe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, 32 catches that year.
Yeah. And Sterling caught 100 and something that year, right there.
Yeah. So I always ask the Dolphin players that I interview that played for Shula, do you have a good Shula story you can share?
Mm.
Here comes the smile. That means you can't share some of them, huh?
Mm-hmm. I don't have too many good ones that I could say put out there.
All right. So I remember early in your career, they used to run a lot of pregame pieces on you and Mark Duper, Mark's brothers, Magic Markers. What was it like having him as your teammate? Were you guys competitive? Did you talk a lot to each other as far as I'm better than you, I'm going to get you this game, or were you helpful to each other? Was it a brotherhood between you two?
No, we were very good friends out there. We didn't really hang together off the field, but we were good friends. Duper was a hell of a receiver. A track guy that turned out to be a hell of a football player.
Right.
So and to make no bones about it, he could stretch that field. He ran good routes. He had good hands, but we really wasn't competitive out there with each other because we just knew that we had to take advantage of the little few targets that we were going to get each game because I look at how many targets these guys get down in the game compared to how many targets Duper and I were getting. I guarantee you. If we got 6 targets a game, that was a lot,
right,
for us. So we know that hell, when I see him over there doing this thing, I knew when I had an opportunity and the ball was coming to me, I had to take advantage of my opportunity because the opportunities are few out there because he threw to some of everybody, the tight ends, the backs.
Was there a defensive back that gave you problems, or you were, there wasn't one that really controlled you, or was there one that was the toughest that you ever went up against?
There was a few guys that I had used to give me fits. The tall, rangy guys, strong guys, like Mike Haynes. He's a big guy and he can run. He's a pretty fast guy too. Can run. Guys like Everson Walls. Let's see, and then you had the guys like some of the not so taller guys that were pretty good. James Hasty was pretty good.
It's funny you bring him up because I would watch you guys play the Jets a lot. Was there a lot of talking on that field between you guys?
There was.
And was it him, or was there may have been a different defensive back? You caught a touch. You caught a touchdown against the Jets, and you threw the ball back at the cornerback. Or he threw it at you. I forget that. Maybe he threw it at you.
Yeah, he threw it at me. I can't think it was, but it came down to it was really this one year. It came down to the last game, in Green Bay when we played the Lions. We were playing the Jets in Joe Robbie Stadium, and whoever won that game was going to win the division and make the playoff. Whoever lost was going home.
Okay.
So that's the game that they said that I said, I guarantee we're going to win. I'm not going to guarantee we're going to win no game. I didn't stupid, wasn't that damn crazy and stupid. So they put it out there that I said it, and Pete Carroll was the defensive coordinator for the Jets then. So before the game, I'm down there catching punts just to stay loose. Our team is working out in the end zone. So Pete Carroll comes down there and he says, don't be kissing butt now. We're gonna close your big mouth today. I said, hey, coach. I said, wow, hey, coach, here's what's happening right now. I said, in a few minutes, we're going to go in there right there and go into the locker room and we're going to come out of the locker room. I said, and tell them when I come out of the locker room, I'm going to have number 83 on. So if they don't know where to find me, I'll have the number right there. So the game is going on. So right before the half, we burn our last timeout and we're driving like on the 25, 30 yard line. And Dan hits me on a slant. And so they tackle me and stuff. And so one of the guys start talking trash to me. And so Hasty says, don't say nothing to him. Don't say anything to him. Just hit him. When you talk to him, that's when he amps up his game when you talk trash to him. He said, just hit him. He said, just hit him. That's how you shut him up. You want to just hit him. Don't talk to him. So, and then a play after that, Dan hit me with another slant, and time was expiring, and I scored as time expired, because had I not scored right there, we wouldn't have gotten anything. Points before the half, because we were out of timeouts and it was in the middle of the field of play, and I kind of like shrugged off a tackle and got into the end zone right there as time expired. But we used to have some people a lot of the guys used to try to talk to me because I was small and they felt like they could really get into my head, but little did they know that was my game.
It's amazing. I'm gonna draw a comparison to your game in the name of this podcast, but Mark Clayton backed it up, didn't he? Right?
People used to say, "Oh, he's cocky. He's cocky." Then this one girl told me, she said, "Tell him it ain't cocky when you back it up. It's confidence."
There you go. There you go. The Back It Up Binge podcast. Mark Clayton backs it up, baby.
There you go.
You did have a little swagger in your step back then. You had some quote confidence there.
That coach over there, well, I don't know if he's still going to be with the Dolphins. He had told me a few years ago. He said, you had swagger before the word swag came out.
You did. You really did. Okay, so I want to talk to you two more topics, right? I got a bunch of notes here, and I want to talk to you about something that I just don't understand. I'm sure you don't either. Hall of Fame. Okay. Let me give you 6 or 7 guys: Mark Clayton, Fred Biletnikoff, Michael Irvin, Andre Reed, Art Monk, Drew Pearson, Harold Carmichael, Charlie Joyner. Not a bad group of receivers, right? Right. Out of all those names, how many of those guys have more TDs than you?
I don't know how many they have.
You had 84. One guy, Andre Reed, had 87, but he also played 76 more games than you. You have more TDs than all those guys. Okay? The stat list that I got, they didn't put Don Hudson in it. They called him an N. So there's 24 wide receivers. 19 of those guys played more games than you. And this is an interesting stat. Every 5 catches, he's number 1 in the Hall. We'll go back to him again. Paul Warfield, every 5 catches, TD. Randy Moss, every 6.3, TD. Swan, 6.6. If you're in the Hall, you'd be ranked fourth at 6.9.
Hmm.
You rank 11th in TDs in all Hall of Fame receivers. You're about top 10, top 11 yards per reception. So, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but Fred Biletnikoff played 32 more games than you.
Hmm.
He has 7 more catches than you. You had 8,974 career yards. He had the same exact career yards as you.
Oh, wow.
So tell me why you're not in the conversation at a minimum. I don't understand that. Like, it seems like every time I interview somebody, they either play with somebody that should be in the hole or themselves not understand. Like, there's no recipe to say, do this, do this, do this, you get in, right? It's very subjective. I get it. And the further we get away from your career, when they keep amassing these numbers, because it's a completely different game now, it's going to get harder for you to get in there. So why are you not more consistently part of that conversation? Because quite frankly, Dolphin fan or not Dolphin fan, Mark Clayton was one of the big names when I watched football and one of the best receivers out there. So I don't understand. What's the answer that you could give me and the fans?
Well, obviously it's not about the stats. I don't know why they keep them, but it's not about the stats. And the word you was looking for when you said recipe is called criteria. There's no criteria what it takes to be in the Hall of Fame. It's a pure crapshoot, and I don't even really trip on that, because if it's meant to be, it shall be. If it happens, I'll welcome it, sure. But I have no control over that. I did what I had control over. I played the game, and so I don't know really. They don't respect my body of work, what I did.
Does it hurt you that you had Dan Marino as your quarterback?
I'm imagining that's some of it also, but they don't penalize Jerry Rice for playing with Joe Montana.
Drew Pearson with Roger Staubach.
Yeah. So I don't understand why, but I'm sure that may be some of it too, because they feel like they played Dan Marino. He could have did that with anybody, but he didn't. But he did not. So
yeah, Mark, I just don't get it. I look at your stats and I don't get it. There's plenty of people I don't understand why they don't get in the Hall of Fame discussion. And as a Dolphin fan and someone who watched the NFL really closely during your career, it doesn't make sense. And the other one's Richmond Webb for the Dolphins. Like, why is that guy not even in the discussion? I mean, he basically shuts down Bruce Smith twice a year, and this guy's not even in the Hall of Fame. Like, what are they waiting for to get him in there? What are they waiting for to get you in there?
Well, I don't know what they're waiting for. Don't they know that weight broke the wagon?
I don't get it. Anyhow, okay, let's go to the last round. I usually call it the binge burner. I'll give you a couple of names of players. You already talked about one, Nat Moore, but I'll go to another one. Just tell me your initial thoughts real quick on these 4 players. Tony Nathan.
Oh, a hell of a football player, and man, he don't get his just dues for the kind of back that he was too. He's a good person, great football player. My dude.
How about this guy? He's a tight end that had wide receiver speed, and you never hear any Dolphin fans talk about him. Farrell Edmunds.
Tree. Called him Tree. He's a big man. Farrell was a hell of a tight end, and fast as hell to be as big as he was. Big hands, like Dr. J hands, like a baseball glove kind of hand.
How about Sterling Sharpe? We'll move to the Packers. Sterling Sharpe.
Good receiver, great receiver. played the game well.
Last one, Reggie White.
One of the best players that I played with. I mean, on the defensive side, and even as good as a football player, he's a better person. He was a better person. Good dude.
Yeah.
Died way too soon.
Yeah. I'm glad I got a chance to ask you about him. One of my favorites of all time. So, all right, Mark, that wraps it up. I really appreciate you getting on. Thank you so much for joining. Really enjoyed the stories and talking to you about your career. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it anytime. Stay warm up there, man.
You too. Take care.
I'm going to. Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
Take care, everybody.